Super excited to talk to you about exponential organizations. All right, hey, welcome everyone. Welcome to one of the last sessions of this GEC. Thank you so much for staying through the end. I know it's tough. I know we're all tired. We have so much information that we've been absorbing, but I thank you. I'm hoping that this is going to be also another fun-filled session for you. I know that this session is thanks to a cast of different folks that have come together across different parts of the world, from Ghana to Colombia to the US, so super kudos to the folks who are going to be with us here. Now, my name is Steven. I have a little issue with my leg, so I'm going to have to sit down and step down for a little bit, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to have a great session, okay? So be ready, stay tuned. All right, so to start things off, I want to start with Peter Diamandis. Does anybody know who Peter Diamandis is? Have you heard of the man? Awesome, some of you have. If you don't already know him, let me introduce him. He's a serial founder with several companies, and he's founded various organizations. Some of you may have heard of the X Prize, Singularity University, among others. He's inspiring now, and this is why I bring him up, because he makes us aware of the speed of technological transformation happening all around us today. If we think that technologies have advanced a lot in the recent years, let's prepare ourselves because, quite honestly, what's coming, because we haven't seen anything yet with what's going to happen. So this is just the tip of the iceberg of what we're experiencing. When you think of AI, generative AI, and all that jazz, there's a lot more coming in. Much more to the fourth industrial revolution that kind of has brought us here, and we still have a long way to go. But today's topics are about his book, Abundance. If you can read it, it helps you understand these concepts in more detail, but on your own time, and how we're surrounded today by infinite amount of resources to attract to our ventures and our organizations, help them grow and scale more effectively. And this applies to traditional businesses and startups, as well as established organizations, and to ourselves. So my intention really through this talk, or for us, is to kind of share some of these concepts about awakening that abundance mindset and taking advantage of what we call exponential markets that we're already starting to see and exploring throughout this presentation. But before we start, just so you know a little bit, well, I want to know a little bit more about you all, see who's connecting, who's here in the room. You know, kind of raise your hand if you're a founder. Raise your hand if you're an employee. And raise your hand if you're a student. Okay, no students. Oh, okay, we got a student back there. Awesome. So, great, great, great. So I'll be shifting the presentation a little bit based on a little bit of the profiles here. So my name here, Steven Rodriguez. I've been with the Global Entrepreneurship Network. I've been helping launch businesses since 2016 and scaling them throughout the USA and a bit of Colombia. And I'm involved in different initiatives and projects with Jen, and also kind of co-building that Colombian entrepreneurship ecosystem with the government, what we call Impulsa Colombia over there. I'm also an ambassador to OpenEXO, which is really the thesis for what we're going to be talking about here today. So to start, let's look a little bit at the new business models that are kind of forming. Think about Facebook, think about Amazon or Walmart, Éxito or Rappi for those in Latin American countries. What are they doing differently? Why and what's exactly behind this? Introduce you to a good friend here, David Rose. Anybody heard of David Rose? He's a super angel from New York, and he leaves us with an inspiring quote just to start things off, to give us a touch of the reality that we're about to embark in. And he says that any company designed for success in that 20th century is destined to fail in the 21st century. All right, and this is due to the new business models that we're seeing today. What we need to keep in mind is that the world is changing all around us. Right? And so we also have to undergo this change as well so that we can survive the disruptions that are coming in that we're seeing. I mean, think of examples like Visa, Stanley Black & Decker, organizations focused on more traditional business models and in the past century, but they've begun to adapt to the changes that they're seeing in the market and to stabilize their revenue and to continue growing in differentiated ways. And we have other organizations that, well, they haven't been able to make the leap. And it's because a lot of organizations are starting to feel this way. They're feeling like a mammoth, right? They know they have to do something. Things are changing all around them, but they don't know where to start. Why? And they're a bit lost. So these are some alternatives they can take. And so wanted to kind of share with you a recap of why this is important and why things are changing. This is a story that we've lived, what has happened during these 4 periods, what people call the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And it's mainly about impacts of technology in human history. Today we're in the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Hopefully that's not a secret. And we'll see a little more in detail later. But each of these moments across time have kind of had what we call Gutenberg moments. And they're Gutenberg moments because they've been triggered by some technological advance or some change in behavior that have led to those leaps in technology. The most important thing to really take from all this, because I know it's a lot of stuff here, is that if you look at the bottom part, we see the years that have passed between one revolution and another, for the most part. What's interesting here is that between the third and fourth, only about 45 years have passed, depending on when you take it. But the trend and what experts who navigate the scenario, what they want to highlight is that if we reach the fifth revolution, it'll actually be in a much shorter time span due to the impacts of technology, due to the changes in consumer behavior and so on. So let's keep them in mind as we start to see how things are increasingly faster and much more uncertain. And here, I'm going to explain why we're seeing these changes faster. And we really need to understand the difference between linear and exponential growth. So one of the important concepts, if you take nothing else away from this conversation, and that is that we need to move from linear thinking, which is, if I'm about to tell you, if you take 30 steps, and one of those steps is a meter, how many meters have you advanced, really? So surely you're going to say, well, Stephen, 30 meters. That's how much I've walked in. And it's easy to visualize that. You could even say that's like going from one block to the other, or maybe from session 3 to session 1, right? So easy to visualize and all that. But what if I ask you in a different scenario, how many steps is it to walk in an exponential scenario, 30 exponential steps? What does that mean? It's harder to visualize, and the reality is that it's almost 28 times around the Earth. Those 30 steps on an exponential path are 28 times around the Earth. And we're talking now exponential and exponents. And humans are more adept at visualizing that, I guess, that linear journey than they are about exponentially what's happening. And this is important for those technologies that we're talking about. All right. Oh, I missed a slide. And this is not just a matter of thinking about it because it came out of nowhere, but it has some reasoning and leverage on technology. And it's that technology that has been leveraged because it has made developments, the use of technology increasingly have greater growth. They're smaller, cheaper, faster, and they're democratizing technology in that sense. And lots of these laws they're here for a reason. So lots of different things have been kind of adding to this that's sharing us why technology is just advancing things so much more quickly. I know here, 3 important laws here. Moore's law tells us that processing power doubles every 18 months. Butler's law tells us that communication speed doubles every 9 months. Kreider's law tells us that storage capacity in devices doubles every 13 months. So that's a bit of the scenario why these exponential growths can become reality and are kind of democratized over time, smaller, cheaper, faster, and at a 10x pace, most specifically. And so why are we entering really the fourth industrial revolution today? What does that mean? It's really because there's a confluence of different exponential technologies that arise and intersect all at the same time. Unlike before where we had the printing press, that was the one big thing that happened at that time. But now we're seeing lots of things, generative AI, drones, autonomous vehicles, Internet of Things, blockchain. It's so many things that are coming together and they're starting to interact at the same time. They're not waiting years or decades between each other. They're now kind of converging all at once. And that's why the fourth industrial revolution has that appeal and all that uncertainty to develop new limits for us as humans. So, it's a lot of information. There's still a lot more, but how are you feeling about this so far? Are you feeling good? Are you following along? Hopefully, yeah? Okay. So, next concept here to kind of get you into this right away, the concept of the 6 Ds. Now, Peter Diamandis, who I mentioned before, he defines 6 Ds for these exponential growths. And the 6 Ds are to digitize, deception, disruption, demonetization, dematerialization, and democratization. So we're going to take a look at all 6. 2 of the 6 kind of take a bit more time to understand, but we'll touch on them briefly regardless so that you have a complete picture. So really, digitization consists of taking things that were previously analog and converting them into data, into digital information. It's predicted that soon there will be around 1 trillion sensors worldwide, and each of them is collecting this digital data. Many things that were previously invisible to computers suddenly now become invisible. They can be analyzed and worked with. Almost all domains of society, almost all organizations are becoming digital, if they're not already. Brief example, Tesla. It's an electric car. Would you say that's fair and true? But are we really sure that it's that? If technology kind of goes a bit farther than that, the car actually continuously updates itself. We could say it's more of an application with wheels. But I'll leave you with that thought. All right, so when digitization happens, the domain enters in what we call a deceptive mode. An interesting metaphor for this comes from nature. And think of the Chinese bamboo. When you plant it for 5 years, nothing really happens. You don't see anything, but something is happening underground. It's just that we can't really see it. And after 5 years in the ground, it starts to grow, and in 5 weeks, it reaches actually 25 meters. So for 5 years, nothing, and then in 5 weeks, it's the fastest growing plant on the planet. And that's what we call by a deceptive period. There's a similar pattern with every exponential technology that we kind of go through. You can see here on the graph that initially, until it hits the curve, the exponential curve is actually slower than linear. People actually tend to underestimate the technology. It seems like nothing is happening or it's not going anywhere. When Craig Venter was sequencing the human genome for the first time, and now a little history lesson, there was a big budget and a timeline set, and it was going very slowly. When they were around at 1% of getting that finalized, it seemed like they needed 17 more years to finish at the rate that they were actually going. Most people told them to stop, save the embarrassment, it's not gonna work, just save the money. But Ray Kurzweil noticed that the progression was actually exponential and not just linear based on what people were seeing. When people were losing faith in the project, he said they were halfway there, and surely the project was finished under budget and ahead of the deadline, surprisingly. And that is the power of an exponential. And genome sequencing is going even faster than doubling, faster than Moore's law. So exponential progress is deceptive for a long time, and then suddenly we have a black swan and things really become disruptive to an extent. Here we see some industries, books, newspapers, movies that were kind of interrupted, and you have the corresponding disruptors, the applications that are everywhere on the slide. A brief example, if you don't already know it, Kodak. An employee warned them one day that his idea to digitize photos, they silenced him actually for fear of disrupting their original business model. Then came the iPhone and Instagram, and regardless, Kodak's business model was disrupted anyway. So ignoring reality is really not going to save you from the changes that are coming. So first 3 Ds, digitize, deception, and disruption. And then it gets very interesting. The second set of 3 Ds, first is demonetization. Basically, money disappears from the old business model. The old way of making money that was based on scarcity, old technologies, and old business models, it begins to disappear. It's already happening in several industries, and more of that is to come. But for example, what happens, let's say, to telecommunication companies once internet connection is ubiquitous? What happens to electric companies once we reach for free or at least very cheap energy? Let's say the sun rays in combination with exponential batteries and energy exchange between individuals. It's likely to happen in all or at least most industries. We often ask companies, how would you do it if your main product today was available for free tomorrow? How are you going to make money? I think it's a very important question that companies start to ask themselves. Even if they're not there yet, it might happen soon. So how are they going to prepare? How are they going to react? So the next D is dematerialization. You can see in the video how in recent decades, everything we use for our office work kind of went from being analog to being digital. Software is literally eating the world, and Mark Andreessen mentioned this, author of Mosaic and the first internet browser. So I think this is going to continue. I think we shouldn't forget that the physical world is very important, but it's quite likely that more and more of our daily professional and perhaps even personal life is moving into the digital space. The metaverse is a topic that's growing more and more recently. So, a little scary sometimes. Ooh, okay, and the end result of that is that many things are being democratized. While there's still a lot of inequality in the world, let's be real about that, there's also more quality in certain domains than ever before. People have access to things that they never had access to before. If you have a mobile phone connected to the internet, you have more access to information than presidents and heads of state just a few decades ago. At the same time, with all this abundance of information, it's become important to be intentional and selective about the information you actually pay attention to. It could be information overload. Well, I'll end on the concept of the 6 Ds with something that Jeff Bezos said at the point of retiring from Amazon. Amazon recognizes that someday they are going to be disrupted, and their focus is to extend and adapt so that their business model stabilizes and continues to grow in those moments of uncertainties. So, kind of give you a little brief rundown of 6 Ds major core framework. Now let's look at how businesses can protect themselves and emerge in the fourth industrial revolution. Whether you're a startup, you're an aspiring entrepreneur, maybe you're also a corporate, then you need to start thinking about this. It applies to all of you. And it's how to understand really the concept of an exponential organization. And to really understand a bit about exponential organizations, I bring up Salim Ismail. I don't know, have any of you heard of Salim Ismail? No, Exponential Organizations, OpenEXO? No, not yet? Okay. So he's the author of Exponential Organizations. We just actually released version 2.0 a few months ago. And he's also one of the co-founders of Singularity University and friends with Peter Diamandis. So it's like a little interesting group. So he's a crack in innovation and entrepreneurship topics, and he leads the OpenEXO organization, where we're trying to understand what are the communal themes of these successful exponential organizations today. And we've kind of developed a methodology that we classify them by attributes. And I'll kind of explore more. We call them the EXO attributes. EXO is the abbreviation for exponential organizations. And we divide them into 11 attributes specifically. The first one is the MTP, or what we call the massive transformative purpose. And then we divide the attributes. Oh, I guess we can't see them there, but here's a better description. We have the external attributes for organizations, so anything that hits them from the outside, like staff on demand, community and crowd, algorithms, leveraged assets, and entertainment, or engagement. And then there's the internal mechanisms that happens within the organization, and we call them ideas. So the interfaces, all the dashboards, experimentation, the autonomy, and the social technologies that we could be leveraging internally. And so we have the 5 scale ideas, the 5 ideas, and of course the MTP. So gonna go over them very quickly because we're gonna get into a group exercise at the end of this because we want you to be doing something. So here the MTP. In brief, this is your why. This is what motivates you. So for any organization, you probably consider that as your mission statement, your North Star, but make sure you have an MTP. It's what drives a community and provides that shared vision around you. So really it describes a better future for the world, or at least for your industry or your community. It doesn't specify how. It's not about you, your customers, the organization, the products or services that you excel at. It's not even an I, it's everyone or an we. It's not a marketing slogan. It's your arrival point, but it doesn't prevent your organization from changing direction as to where you're going. It can excite you, it can scare you, but it's very important to you personally as an organization. You may never fully achieve it, but it's still worth striving for. And a great MTP attracts customers, community, partners, and resources to kind of make a dent in the world together. So some examples of an MTP, just to give you a better, clearer idea. Spotify, music for everyone. Or Google, organize information for everyone. Or Tesla, accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy. So just a bit about what a massive transformative purpose is based on some of these examples. TEDx has been operating since 1984 as a high-level conference, and it was only limited to 1,000 attendees. In 2001, Christopher Anderson's Sapling Foundation, they acquired TED, and Anderson became its guide, and he was captivated by the quality of the speakers. So Anderson decided to take TEDx forward with the help of his MTP at the time, which was ideas worth spreading. So just a little bit about the power of an MTP. Next, let's go through some of the other attributes just so it's in your mind. Staff on demand. In brief, it's how do you minimize full-time staff? How do you outsource tasks, or at least some of the tasks that can be outsourced to minimize costs? An example, GigWalk, which is based on 500,000 used workers with access to smartphones, offers an example of how this new labor market works. Let's say Procter & Gamble as one example. They need to know how and where their merchandise is being placed on Walmart shelves around the world. They can use GigWalk, the platform, to instantly deploy thousands of people who are paid a few dollars to enter a Walmart and look at the shelves. They receive the results in an hour, as opposed to, oh snap, we gotta hire a workforce and ship them to the different Walmarts. Okay, that's crazy expensive. So this is a bit of the power of staff on demand. Now, next, community and followers. Really, if you build communities and do things in public, you don't have to find the right people because they find you. So two well-known examples of ExOs that actually leverage people for funding are Kickstarter and Indiegogo. In 2012, there was an estimated $2.8 billion raised through crowdfunding campaigns. The World Bank predicts that crowdfunding will grow by $93 billion by 2025. Next, algorithms. What do we mean by this? So really, ExOs are able to leverage data and algorithms to scale in ways that weren't possible 5 or 10 years ago. So an example, let's say UPS. They have 55,000 trucks in the US fleet. They make about 16 million deliveries daily. The possibilities for inefficient routing are enormous. By applying telematics and algorithms, UPS saves its drivers actually 85 million miles a year, resulting in an annual savings of $2.5 billion. So just a quick note as to how you can leverage algorithms for your company and the bottom line. Leveraged assets. So here, how do you hold on to what's absolutely critical and outsource everything else? So an example, it took Airbnb only 10 years to become a $25 billion company and the largest wholesale chain in the world without actually owning a single property. So Waze leverages its user smartphones to create a GPS navigation tool without having to research and develop a GPS. So just, again, going quickly through the examples because I'm sure we want to get to the action. So engagement, what do we mean by this? Well, it's really how do we enable collaborative human behavior, or social behavior rather, to design the outcomes you want from your community. They could be raffles, they could be contests, coupons, air miles, loyalty cards. They've existed for a long time. But in recent years, such techniques have kind of become enabled for information, elaborated, and socialized. So ExOs today, they engage through digital reputation systems, whether it's games, gamification, incentives with prizes. All of these kind of offer those opportunities for positive virtual feedback loops, which in turn enables faster growth due to more innovative ideas, customer loyalty, and actual community. Companies like Google, Airbnb, Uber, eBay, Yelp, GitHub, and Twitter kind of leverages different interaction mechanisms on social networks and other platforms. All right, let's get into ideas now. Interfaces. Really, ExOs have very personalized processes of how they interact with customers and other organizations. So an example of this is Apple's strict rules on what reaches its actual app store. Another example, Google's AdWords, a multi-billion-dollar business at Google, is another classic example. So a key to its scalability is self-provisioning. That is, The interface for an AdWords customer has been completely automated, so there is no manual involvement. And you see that with Facebook, even LinkedIn ads and stuff like that. So how do you build interfaces to kind of automate things as well for the end user? Another attribute here is dashboards. So in brief, it's an adaptable real-time dashboard to kind of, with all the essential metrics that a company or an employee needs. It's accessible to everyone in the organization. Sure, you can be sending, status updates and reporting through email, Slack messages and stuff, but then to kind of go back and find all that, that takes time. But how do we kind of get that information into one simple dashboard? So you always have your online metric, your most important indicator, top of mind, and oh snap, are we working towards this or not? So how do we leverage kind of these dashboards to make everything more seamless and easy, especially as you're a growing company? So an example here, in the early 1990s, retail giants like Sears, Kmart, and such, they would calculate their daily transactions store by store. Then a buyer from the central office would analyze the total of all regional sensors to determine how many boxes of Pampers the company needs to make their next bulk purchase. The whole process would take weeks. So Walmart destroyed this model and revolutionized retail by launching its own real-time dashboard that actually allowed them to track inventory in any store instantly. With real-time business information at their fingertips, Walmart could make more impact, more important quick decisions, and crush the competition, consistently outperforming other chains by 15% at the time, an amazing competitive margin in actual retail. All right, we're about to end here soon. Experimentation. So really, it's the implementation of the lean startup methodology to kind of test assumptions and constantly experiment within a controlled risk environment. So an example, Maria Mujica, who runs the Fly Garage Innovation Unit for Mondelez International, which is like a confectionery company, uses experimentation to run multi-day garages to create new brand commitments. So groups of free thinkers from inside and outside the organization are kind of invited to participate in boundless environments of these garages where they detoxify by disconnecting and unplugging from everything. They empathize and delve into and connect with the opportunities. They carry ideas and they brainstorm. They shake up and drive different ideas and solutions. They quickly design and prototype, and that's the key word here, to allow for rapid user experience, for testing, and to kind of see results. Is this going to give us the impact that we think we're going to see, or no, let's shift gears because this is just not working out the way we thought it was. So really, it's about experimentation quickly, fastly, and within a controlled environment so it doesn't catch you off guard and hurt your bottom line. Another example, Google has Gmail, Google Chat, Google Fi, Google Workspace, Google Maps, and more. All of these were experiments to see what opportunities are found. Not all are successful, as we've seen with Google Plus or Google Inbox, and most recently, Google Domains. Sadly, I was a fan of Google Domains. All right, so autonomy, in brief, it's really about here, self-organizing and multidisciplinary teams that operate with a decentralized authority. And here we can think kind of AI robots. So an example that I'll give you from back when is Zappos.com, company with 4,000 employees, specializes in the online retail marketing for footwear and clothing. So the company is uniquely organized around its corporate culture and core values. In fact, Zappos pays people to leave if they don't fit into the company culture. And so they're trying to kind of make this work. So there are no traditional work standards available at Zappos. Instead, they kind of encourage its employees to go beyond traditional customer service for its representatives. And here with Amazon, we're kind of seeing how they're kind of leveraging autonomous agents or bots to kind of help them do more work, more moving with less talent or capital or human labor. All right, and last but not least, social technologies. It's really collaborative technologies. How do we allow organizations to kind of manage real-time communication between all the employees? I mean, it's kind of ubiquitous now, right? We have Slack, we have all these other tools, we have Telegram. There's probably 20 more. So it really allows us to connect in real time, and each company can use different tools. But it's really how do we enable ourselves to become social, both internally and externally. All right, so a lot of information, and don't worry, it all takes time to kind of receive, analyze, and implement. You're really taking the first step here, though, so that you know what it is to be exponential. What is that exponential mindset, and how do you apply that then to your business and your operations? To make this simpler, we kind of have a canvas, just like the lean business model canvas, value proposition design canvas. We have, guess what, an EXO canvas. And so it's free, it's a digital tool, and you can all download it, and I'll give you access to it later. But just want to end briefly by a quote by Abraham Lincoln here and he said it before the 1700s, the best way to predict the future is by creating it. So you have in your hands, as startup creators, as innovators, as really SMEs and organizations, or students even, starting to launch their careers, you have new realities and possibilities of really co-creating the future. And the best way to predict it is to co-create it yourselves. So go out there and make things happen. So the invitation here is to continue doing it, to connect with exponential organizations, whether it's your own business, applying it to others, or joining a community like ExO, where we're all thinking through that together. Oh man, so how do you feel? Do you feel like you've been invested your time well? I know it was a lot of information. Hopefully it was new stuff, right? Sometimes I need something told to me like 10 times before I get it. So if you don't get it, it's okay. Hopefully you'll get it. And if you already got it, even better, because you can start moving forward. But lots of lecturing. Where's the action? So I'm going to turn it over to my colleague here, Stephen Giasikyo from Gen Ghana, and he's going to help move us along and facilitate an interesting session.
Thank you, Stephen, for this. I hope you're all excited. The energy is low. Yes. Do you want to go exponential? Do you want to go exponential? Yes. Okay, good. Thank you all for your time. I think it's a lot to consume, but just to reflect on some of the things he said. These are all tools some of us are just using basically right now, but it's about how we optimize those tools to be very efficient in our daily work, whether you're an employee, you're an entrepreneur, you're a small business owner. All right. Look, let me give you a practical experience right now. This morning I woke up, and we had a project that we are doing with a bank in Ghana. So we are actually monitoring all the investment they're doing in SMEs. All right. So they've given us the contract to be able to ensure that these SMEs are using the money right and what are their challenges. But whilst he was talking, I said, oh God, this is the reason why probably using tools like that. So we're using Airtable to do most of our management of the platform that we have for the bank. And there was a data that we're supposed to have. So today I got one top of the people in the bank sent a message that, oh, my team cannot find this report or that. Imagine that I'm not in Ghana right now. Okay, and this thing was done manually, that we're taking forms to these businesses, we visit them to fill. It would have been very difficult for me to extract that data for the client. But because of the simple tools and some of the things we started implementing, just a click of a button, the information was got and was sent to them. So it's amazing, like things like Google Forms. If you're collecting data from people or registration, we just put an application to our university program we're working on. We closed the application. Today I can sit here, I know the number of students who applied, the levels they are, what their interests are, the demographics of the age groups that have applied. These are data that I can even go back right now and tell the school that, hey, this is the issue, this is what your students need, and we can also use that information to be able to optimize our programming and the things that we'll do to be able to be very effective as an organization. So moving forward, we're going to do some exercise. We are all in groups right now. I think these 5 days we've learned so much, right? From different sections, we've had keynote speakers talking about different things AI is doing, whether it's funding, we want to grow our organization, we're talking about ExOs. There's been a whole dynamic of different conversation going on throughout this whole 4 days we've been here. So how are we going to take that information all away and go back and become exponential in the things that we do in our daily life? These are the things that we want you guys to discuss right now, share among yourself, and then share some ideas, what you've learned from here, what you've consumed as well from the sessions that we've had throughout, and come up with some ideas, and we can all be able to deliberate on it and learn from each other from that. So in groups, as on your table, pick up things that you want to do, what you're doing, and some of the things that you feel like we can do. The things that you're going to go here and change. It's not only about revenue making. If it's a problem you want to go and solve back home, there's something you've seen that is of social impact that you want to address, how best is it that you can do using different tools to be able to sort of optimize that. Whether it's skill training, if you have a skills, a qualification, a specialty, what can you do? And you'll be amazed that sometimes we have talent, we've learned, we've been educated, but we don't know how to sometimes monetize that knowledge that we have, or use that to sort of help make impact in respective communities. Today you can go and set up a training program. All right, our friend here who is a business analyst, he's been doing that from Canada, and you can teach business analysts anywhere from any part of the world, and you can optimize that. What are you doing? You're changing lives, you are making impact for people, so that they can also go on and do the same. But at the same time, you're doing good for yourself because they pay you to be able to do that. So I would say that we shouldn't have any excuse. We are fortunate that today, the things that the companies that he mentioned, you could see that they're all like big multinationals. The time they started, most of these tools were not available right now. But today we have a lot of the tools that can make us be very, very better, be optimized, and to get efficiency in the things that we want to do. So let's go on. I don't know if we're going to have do we have to give them the sheets, or how do they get that done?
No, you already mentioned. Oh, we don't have any paper to that.
Okay, all right. So maybe I want it to be very interactive. Maybe you can go from table to table. People can share the ideas, what they also think on, because we want it to be. If there's something you don't understand, maybe you want to ask, we'll be able to also be able to respond to that respectively.
Can you send us the slides?
The slides, I'm sure. Yeah.
If that's the link, so you get access to this presentation.
Yes. Okay.
Another question. May I use some of the slides in presentations in Suriname?
Yeah.
If you need clarification as to where is this coming from, or where the source is, I'm happy to also. Thank you.
Good. Okay. So let's be interactive. We're all doing something differently, right or wrong, from where we are. Maybe I'm going to go from a table. Someone can tell me what you're doing. What tools are you using to make you efficient, to make you exponential, or maybe what you've learned from here, what you think you're going to do differently? Feel free.
Oh, okay. We already use Trello. Trello and Padlet. Padlet is also a board you can use to put all your presentations on. So when you just open it, the link, and then you see all the presentation from all the sessions or so for my training. And we always use online forms. There's just the small things in my company. I'm not that innovated yet, but we are on our way, and this week learns me a lot. So I have a lot of work to do. Thank you.
I just wanted to say you're doing something. Don't say you're not doing anything. At least you've optimized something, with that. All right.
We work with farmers, and we used to go and walk around the farm and check the size and everything. Now we use drones, and we use Pix4D. It's a software to analyze the data and get maps really easy.
Awesome. This is great. Mr. Data Analyst, let's hear from you.
So for us, currently, for some of the video lectures we use Vimeo, but we're kind of looking to move to a new learning management system called Thinkific. Thinkific, yeah. It's got a lot of very amazing features. And then, of course, it really helps a lot. Also, they recently included one of the new features, which is gamification for students, and I think it's really amazing. And it's fast and cheap as well. So I think Thinkific is great for a learning management system.
Thinkific. What? Yes, anyone from here? Share with us what you're doing, what you're going to do new.
Okay. From Bermuda, run an organization that provides advice and support to local MSMEs. So we do everything from business advice to funding to networking. So in our own work, because we have a loan portfolio, we use Learn Pro to manage that loan portfolio. Trying to be more efficient with regard to meetings and note taking, so we use read.ai. Obviously, virtual, we have a hybrid, flexible work arrangement. Because we have businesses all over the island, we use Esri GIS to map those businesses and then publicize those maps for data. So a whole range of tools.
Very interesting. Really learning a lot. Great.
I represent the third sector over here in Puerto Rico, and we know that technology failed, and I just came here for you guys to help, and we maintain everything in hard copies. When we end up with the hard copies, then we want to create in digital, and we find AI, and we found that this is better and it's working. And like I said, the third sector sometimes have an information that they don't want to put it digital. And when I read about ExOs, if I'm correct, how could I maintain the third sector, a B Corp, on an exponential level? Could you help me with that?
Okay. Stephen, did you get that?
I know for today's session, I know it might be out of the scope, but in those situations, we do have what we call EXO sprints. So it's kind of like a little workshop, consultative, but it also puts you through, okay, what are the 11 attributes, where are you now, and then which ones make sense for you to start going to becoming exponential. So it kind of gives you a guide of sorts. So that is one way, but I think it might require us to have like a 30-minute kind of call so that I can understand where you're trying to go, and then we can kind of map out some ways to move forward.
Thank you. Let's get some feedback from the back so we know that at least everyone contributes.
Hi, I'm a professor, so after this workshop and master classes, I will use more the AI in my classroom because I always try to make my student think not to use the prompt, but now I learned that you need to know how to use the prompt correctly. So in my firm, marketing firm, we use sentiment analysis. We use social listening, and we have a program that extracts the comments that Facebook and all the social media has and analyze it. So that's how we use technology and improve productivity. So that are my two contributions here. I use technology as a sentiment analysis and the social listening platform. And in my classroom, after all of this, I will definitely use more AI. So thank you.
Thank you. So one contribution I can add to you that maybe is that yourself or you can get your students to, there's so many courses, there's something they call prompt engineering. All right, so they can take that course. It's not difficult to do. So they can do the prompt very well and be able to get the good information they need from AI. Because if you look at it, if you're not doing the prompt, you're not asking the right questions to AI in the right way, you don't really, you get a fraction of really what you need. But if you really want to be optimal, even I'll recommend this for everyone who is not really like an AI pro, but you really want to sort of get a lot of advantage from AI. Take those courses online. If you go on a lot of this free website, you can get what they call prompt engineering, okay? All right, so to give you how it works, how you need to do the query, how you do the prompt to get good outcomes for it. So you can get good efficiency from AI tools, all of them. Yes, sir?
Hi, I'm Robin Sebastian Ramdin from Trinidad and Tobago. I'm part of a team that is building out a metaverse, and we are ideally utilizing different tools, AI, and then irregular programming languages. But my role ideally is to create all the content that is being distributed. What I do is I utilize a combination of AI tools such as Midjourney, Runway, Suno, and well, obviously ChatGPT as well, to create the content, put them together, and then tell the story through videos, right? So that's what I'm working on right now, and eventually, once the metaverse comes mainstream, then anyone could be able to interact with it through the DKG. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, you guys. I think it's been very good. One last thing I want to leave or want to share with you all is that as you all catalysts, you're going back to your communities to make impact. You're going to use these tools yourself, or you've been using them yourself. We should try as much as possible to sort of democratize that, to bring that to the level of the people you interact with, the people whether you teach, your consumers, your customers, to show them simple things that they can do to enhance the basic things they do. You'll be surprised that most people that you say, whether it's SME, small businesses, some of them don't even take advantage of just Google Forms. They feel very little bit, sometimes complex to find things to do, and they don't know how to go about it and stuff. So we should be the agent of change, that we teach them all these basic things that they can make things very seamless for them in the processes that they do to even enhance their customer service relationship, because if people come and buy stuff from you, or you deal with people when the experience is not great, they don't come back. If the experience is great, people pay premium for experience. It's as simple as that. It's like you go to certain shops, you can find maybe a bag or a pair of socks somewhere in a certain shop. They sell it for, let's say, $10. You go somewhere, it's for $50, all right? It's why, because when you go to even the shop, the experience you have, the sort of like merchandise, what they've been able to do, you feel valued that when you're paying $50 for that, is value for you. So the more we help our small businesses to sort of learn these things to be exponential, when it's exponential, it's not just for big companies or, Fortune 500 companies. Or at a level, basic level, I believe that these tools, when we're able to help them to utilize them, it will help them grow faster, become sustainable, and also help them generate revenue and grow. So thank you for your time. And if you have any questions in the future or something, yes, as Steve has shared the details over, you can be able to do that, and you will take the communication from there. Thank you all for your time. And it's a pleasure meeting you all too. And safe trips back home, wherever you're coming from. And those from Puerto Rico here, we want to say thank you for your awesome hosting us over here this time. All the best.